better. How many of you are extroverts? Raise your hand. Oh, there's got to be more than 3 extroverts in this room. Okay, seriously? I mean, in a group of Toastmasters. All right, I'm going to try it again. How many of you are extroverts? 6, 7. Well, this is going to be good. This is going to be really good. So how would you describe an introvert?
Raise my hand.
Not right now. Now you know why I asked. I didn't ask how many introverts because I figured no one would raise their hand. But I didn't realize we have a bunch of shy extroverts in this audience. So, you know, people often describe introverts as shy, soft-spoken, antisocial. Some of them are really good at staring at their shoes during networking. But do you ever heard introverts described as prolific speakers, effective communicators? Most people don't associate this with introverts. Aaron Beverly is here to speak with us today. And he's going to talk about growing up as an introvert. He probably didn't raise his hand either. And the challenges that he had while he was growing up as an introverted person, and he overcame those challenges. He overcame those challenges to the extent that he became the world champion of public speaking in 2019. And he claims to be a thriving introvert. Have you ever heard those two words, you know, together? They're usually not in the same sentence, maybe different sentences. Aaron has been invited to speak at Fortune 100 companies, notable universities, and he's engaged audiences in several countries around the world. He doesn't give his credit to his achievements to his advanced degree or a privileged life. He credits it to learning effective communication and public speaking. Now, I looked some stuff up about Aaron, and he actually joined Toastmasters right out of college. So I'm going to ask the question, who here wishes they had joined Toastmasters right out of college?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to put him in the lucky few category who was smart enough to do this. Please help me give a warm welcome to Aaron Beverly. Speaking about the hidden powers of the introvert and how extroverts can use this power, all 6 of you.
District 101, how are you doing today? As you heard very clearly and eloquently, my name is Aaron Beverly, and I am the 2019 World Champion of Public Speaking. However, where we're going to start this presentation is not in 2019, but rather in 2016. In 2016, I was trying to explore exactly what it is to be an introvert, what it is to be an extrovert. I wanted to learn a little bit more about myself. And what it ended up turning into was a speech that I ended up giving in 2016 in my first appearance in the World Championship of Public Speaking. Let's have a look.
Aaron Beverly, leave a lasting memory using as few words as possible and strive with every fiber of your being to avoid being the type of person who rambles on and on with no end in sight, more likely than not causing more listeners to sit and think to themselves, oh my goodness, can somebody please make this stop? Leave a lasting memory using as few words as possible and strive with every fiber of your being to avoid being the type of person who rambles on and on with no end in sight, more likely than not causing more listeners to sit and think to themselves, oh my goodness, can somebody please make this stop? Aaron Beverly.
Be honest. You enjoyed that, didn't you? Now, please do me a favor. Recite that entire title off the top of your head right now. Go. Not all at once. Wait a minute. Do you mean to tell me that you cannot remember all 57 of the words in that title? Neither can I. But do you know what that proves? Just because you say more doesn't mean people will remember what you say. Thank you, contest chair, Toastmasters and guests. Outside of a Toastmasters club, I actually do not talk a lot. I've always been called a quiet person. In fact, if you went back in time to my college and told the other students that one day Aaron Beverly will speak in front of over 1,000 people at a Toastmasters convention, they would say, wow, that's amazing. Aaron can talk? Ever since I was a kid, people have always told me, Aaron, you need to say more. Aaron, you need to speak up more. Aaron, people won't remember what you say unless you say more. And I remember thinking to myself, is that true? Is it bad to be a quiet person? Are we truly judged by how much we say? Or is it what we say that counts? I remember a former colleague of mine from work. His name was Austin. The year was 2013, early in the morning. Me and Austin were standing at a bus stop, waiting for the bus that takes us to work. Now, the bus driver, she was about 35 to 40 years old. Every day her bus would pull up, she would open the bus doors, and she would greet every passenger in the nicest way possible, like this. She was actually the meanest person I have ever met in my life. Do you know what the passengers called her? Bus Lady of Doom. The only time I ever heard her laugh was the day she left someone at the bus station. Just mean and grumpy for no reason. Have you ever met anyone like this? There we are, me and Austin, standing at the bus stop. Bus pulls up, bus doors open, and there she is. What happened next, I still cannot believe. Austin hops on the bus, but he stops. He turns. He looks the bus lady of doom in the eye, and he says, "How are you today, beautiful?" Then the bus lady of doom did the weirdest thing. She did this. I'm not gonna lie, when I saw that, I was a little scared. But with a few words often turn someone mean and grumpy into someone happy. He reminded me of a time when I made someone happy with just a few words. When I was still living with my mom, I walked up to her one day and I said the words that all parents dream about. "Mom, I'm moving out of the house." My mom said, "Yes." I'm joking. She was way more excited than that. Now, I have not seen Austin in 3 years, but he reminded me back then and today, a few words, they can make people happy. But they can do more. They can bring pain and sorrow, prejudice and hatred, but also peace and love, pride and inspiration. And within that realm of inspiration, a few words can do something extraordinary. I'm in my Toastmasters club. It's time for the best part of the meeting that every Toastmaster loves, table topics. The topics master stood on the stage. He called out, "May I please have the first volunteer?" There was one hand, but that hand was special because it belonged to a young, soft-spoken young lady named Michelle. Michelle was from China. She was attending college in America. 19 years old and speaking in front of an audience terrified her. But there she was, standing on that stage. The topics master read the question. What was the greatest moment of your life? And she froze. For what must have felt like eternity to her, all she could do was stare at the floor. 10 seconds passed, and she still could not speak. 20 seconds passed. Her lips began to tremble. 30 seconds passed. She cried. I'm sitting in the audience, I'm watching this happen to her, and I'm heartbroken. Until she finally spoke, and she shared the greatest moment of her life. When my mom said she believed in me. What can you say to that? Those words were spoken 5 years ago, and I still remember them. Michelle, she may remember her mother's words for the rest of her life because a few words, they can touch your heart. So ladies and gentlemen, I believe that it's okay to be a quiet person, to be soft-spoken, to not say that much. Because when it comes to being remembered, I've learned, and you've proven, just because you say more doesn't mean people will remember what you say. So let's make the words we do say count. You'll be surprised how long people remember a few words.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, for this keynote, I am one of those weird keynote speakers that establishes rules when I have a keynote speech. So, just a few rules. So, rule number one, let's have fun. I'm not a person who takes myself too seriously, and you will see that represented very well in this speech, but I encourage all of us to have fun. And with that thought in mind, I want to say, grammarians, please forgive me. I apologize in advance. Throughout this presentation, you may notice that there are some words that may or may not be in the English dictionary. Sometimes there are words that I will say that have an ing at the end of them. Sometimes I won't enunciate them. And ERs at the end of the words. But again, it's all in good fun. Forgive me in advance. And then, ladies and gentlemen, please take notes. We're going to go through this, some parts relatively quickly. And if you take notes, you can approach me afterwards. If you have questions, I am more than open to be given any questions outside of today's presentation. And last but not least, be prepared to participate. With that in mind, do we agree with these rules? All right, then let's start some participation. And similar to what we already had with Karen given the introduction, I want to know, by show of hands, who here is an extrovert? Well, there are a few more than raised their hand before. I think that's a little bit more people trickled into the room, or a little bit more people feel more of a brave space now that they can let it be known that they are extroverts. But, next question, who here is an introvert? There we go. Who is an introvert? A lot more. Awesome. I raised my hand as well. Now, when it comes to being an introvert, quick story, and we're going to learn one of our first vocabulary words of the day. Word of the day, everyone. It was about 2014, 2015. It was after my Toastmasters meeting, and my club, we'd like to hang out afterwards at something that we called the post-toast. So we're sitting at the post-toast, we're having dinner, we're having a few beers, we're having a good time, and then we start on this topic of introverts and extroverts. And my friend George, he hears me say something. He hears me say that I am one of the most introverted people that you could ever meet. Now, George, he contemplates this. He puts down his beer. He looks me in the eye, and he says a word that I will never forget. Yes, that is the word. Spelled P-S-S-H. Now, we're going to practice learning this new word. So, it's two parts to this word. So, first you have the p sound. So, everybody do p. Now, the second sound, what do you say when people are talking during the minute of silence during the contest? Now, put both of those sounds together. You have learned a new word. Now, what does this word mean? The definition of is an expression of disbelief in what is being said. In George's context, it means, Aaron, what you had just told me is some complete bull. We do not use that type of language in Toastmasters, but that's what it means. Now, George's thought process was that I could not possibly be an introvert. How could I? After all, when you hear of Aaron Beverly nowadays, especially in the Toastmasters world, you see something more like this. You see the second place finish in the World Championship of Public Speaking in 2016. You see the YouTube channel. You see the videos. You see me speaking at other conferences similar to this one. And then last but not least, you see the win in 2019 when I became the World Champion of Public Speaking. Now, how could this person be an introvert, you say? Well, that was something that my friend and I, Daniel Mitson Short, talked about after the 2019 World Championship of Public Speaking. Daniel had scheduled an interview with me. We had both competed in the 2019 World Championship of Public Speaking, and we started, again, talking about introverts and extroverts. And Daniel had a suggestion. Daniel told me, Aaron, you should reach out to a woman by the name of Susan Cain. And I was very familiar with Susan Cain. Susan Cain has given one of the most popular TED Talks ever on the platform, talking about being introverted and what it truly means to be an introvert. She was the person who helped me understand what it was to be an introvert. For people who may or may not know, an introvert is all about how you get and gain energy from social interaction. So, introverts, we tend to lose energy with ample social interaction. However, extroverts, they thrive in social interaction and they get empowered by it. So it's all about where you gain your energy when it comes to social interaction. And Daniel, he told me to reach out to this woman who was an SME on the matter or the subject of extroverts and introverts. This is a person who has eclipsed me in terms of views, even with both of my Toastmaster speeches combined in views. She's much more popular than me. So I told Daniel that I'm not going to do that. And the reason I gave made me cringe. I won't do that because I'm an introvert. Yeah. And in that moment, I realized I was committing a great sin as an introvert, because I was using my introversion as an excuse to not do something, to not speak up. And that is because even me being an introvert and learning about it, I still have these misconceptions. Misconceptions plague introverts. And it's because we have a whole bunch of knowledge, a bunch of things said about introverts. Some of them are facts, but some of them are myths. We're going to play a little bit of a game. We're going to play fact or myth, or as I like to call it, fact or. First prompt, fact or. Introverts lack strong people skills. Okay. A lot of people say, this is a fact. At least according to some experts. And usually these experts point to a certain person who's very well known in this area, I'm pretty sure. This guy. Mark Zuckerberg. Now, if you have seen Mark Zuckerberg present, I don't think anybody would confuse Mark Zuckerberg for having great people skills. But when you go onto something like YouTube, for instance, and you were to look up Mark Zuckerberg, people skills, these are the things that you will find. Mark Zuckerberg is not human. Zuck is awkward, but he is not an evil robot. Just in case anybody was wondering. Why Zuck seems evil. And last but not least, communication professor breaks down Mark Zuckerberg's speech. It's a little bit more normal. However, when you look at all of these headlines, which ones are going to stand out the most? Which ones are people going to associate with people skills and this introverted person? Obviously, the ones that generate the millions of views. However, Zuckerberg may not be the best example of an introvert with great people skills. You have many introverts who have those quality, great people skills. One person in particular who inspired me into public speaking, Barack Obama, the 44th president of the United States. To be a president, I think you would have to have some level of people skills, right? Okay, but how about this person? Beyonce Knowles Carter identifies as an introvert. However, you would never know that seeing her perform, seeing her interact with her team that put on the show. But let's go for another example. Let's go for somebody who actually is or was considered an extroverted person. Another one, Palo Alto's own, the late, great Steve Jobs. Now, Steve Jobs was considered an extrovert. He was self-proclaimed to be an extrovert, especially when compared to Steve Wozniak. But people skills? Let's go back to 2008. If you have read Steve Jobs' biography, you would probably know about this situation where a new UI was launched in 2008, and the release was absolutely horrible. It was disastrous. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. And Mr. Jobs, being Mr. Jobs with his great people skills, he asked his team the question, what is this UI supposed to do? They replied, it's supposed to do A, B, and C. And his response, then why the doesn't it do that? Oh, but he goes on. You should hate each other for having let each other down. Steve Jobs. People skills. So this example and many other examples that we don't have the time to jump into, I have to say that this is indeed Introverts can have strong people skills, and just because you're an extrovert doesn't necessarily mean that you have great people skills. Okay, next prompt. Fact or introverts are quiet. Okay. How many people say fact? How many people say, okay. It depends, okay. Now, I, for instance, have to say that this is and it's because I know of one person. This person is Adele Beverly. Adele Beverly, AKA my mommy. Now, my mommy is a kind and considerate person. She is loving. However, she is an introvert, but she is not quiet. Especially in a certain location that she goes to on Sundays, known as not church, church. This, ladies and gentlemen, is our next vocabulary word, church. Coined by the comedian Steve Harvey, there are some differences between church and church. Now, in church, you may sing a song. However, in church, you don't sing a song, you sang that song. In church, you hear the preacher or the pastor preaching, and you may occasionally say, amen, amen. However, in church, when the pastor preaches, you respond, yes, pastor, you better preach. Woo, hallelujah. And that unprompted participation is expected in church.
Take your time.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, sister. And then in church, there's something that happens what we call catching the Holy Spirit. And it looks something like this. But that's without sound, ladies and gentlemen. I want to give you a demonstration of what my mother does. Don't worry, that was me. Everyone, just give me a clap, 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 clap. This is what my mother does. Woo. 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 Somebody's in the way. Get out of my way. Woo. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is many things. That is hilarious. That is epic, a little bit violent with the pushing the people out of the way. But ladies and gentlemen, that is not quiet. Not quiet at all. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I would say some introverts are quiet, but not all. Okay, next prompt. Fact or introverts fear extroverted activities like public speaking. A little one more complicated. Who says fact? Fact. Who says? Okay. I say, and as proof, I just want to pick a quick poll. So, who identified as extroverts in the room? Okay. Now, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. How many of you have ever had fear or anxiety for public speaking? Okay. All right, introverts, raise your hand. How many of you, some hands may go down for this, how many of you actually enjoy public speaking and standing in front of an audience? A few hands went down, but a lot of hands remain. Now, if this was truly a 100% fact, all of those hands would have dropped, and for the extroverts, all of those hands would have dropped when I said, how many of you have anxiety? So, we have all of these half-truths. Why do they prevail when it comes to what an introvert is and what they are not? What is fact and what is? It's because we have a concept known as an OG. Are you an OG? Some of you may be asking, Aaron, what is an OG? Well, in normal context, an OG stands for the original gangster. And yes, grammarians, yes, I know I dropped the ER, but I warned you. But when I say OG and I ask the question, are you an OG? I don't ask you this as an original gangster. I ask you, are you an overgeneralizer? Now, we hear the term introvert and we immediately want to put all introverts into a monolith. We want to say, yes, you are quiet. Yes, you are shy. Yes, you do not like external or extracurricular activities like public speaking. And extroverts, you are automatically great at people skills. You are automatically the benefit, or you benefit society. A lot of these things are said, but they're too general. So, what is the cure for generalizing? Well, specification. And specification, come on. There you go. Specification. We need to understand for ourselves and for the people that we work with, what specifically are those traits that make them introverted or extroverted? What makes them thrive in certain social environments, and what makes them want to stand off a little bit in those social interactions? Enter, again, Susan Cain. Susan Cain authored the book Quiet. I highly recommend for anyone who is an introvert or an extrovert to read this book. New York Times bestseller, and what really sparked Susan Cain's career as the expert on introversion and extroversion. And in this book, Susan Cain has a quiz, an introvert quiz that we're going to just quickly go through, and we're just going to have some audience participation. I will take some time or allow you to take a picture of all of the questions once they are all revealed, but by show of hands, just quickly, I prefer one-on-one conversations to group activities. Hands? Okay. Next, I often prefer to express myself in writing. All right. I enjoy solitude. I seem to care about wealth, fame, and status less than my peers. Sometimes I go back and forth on this one, but I'll raise my hand for right now. Number 5, I dislike small talk. I enjoy talking about in-depth topics that are important to me. Yes. People tell me that I am a good listener. For me, it depends who you're talking to. I'm not a big risk taker. Just real quick, I dream about winning the lottery. I have never played the lottery. I don't like taking risks. I enjoy work that allows me to dive in with few interruptions. All right. Number 9, I celebrate birthdays on a small scale with only a few people close to me. All right. And number 10 out of 20, so we got some more to go. People describe me as soft-spoken or mellow, until they hear me give a Toastmaster speech. Now, continuing on, we'll go to fly through these. And, okay. Number 11, I prefer not to show or discuss my work with others until it's finished. Dislike conflict. I do my best work on my own. I tend to think before I speak. Again, depends who you're talking to. I feel drained after being out and about, even if I enjoyed myself. This is really what an introvert is. Whoop, sorry. Often let calls go through voicemail. Yeah, some of you are reluctant to raise your hands for that one, I see. If I had to choose, I would prefer a weekend with absolutely nothing to do. Oh, that is beautiful. No, sorry, I really love being here. I just want to make that clear. I don't enjoy multitasking. I can't concentrate easily. In classroom situations, I prefer lectures to seminars. And I gave you a sneak peek of what all of my answers were. However, if I was truly an introvert, if all of those things were 100% fact, then this would mean that I'm not quite an introvert. I didn't pass all 20 questions. A lot of you raised your hands for some of these. A lot of you didn't. That means, are you not an introvert or not a pure introvert? Or if you raised your hand and you are considered an extrovert, does that mean that, what is this weird thing that we're now finding ourselves in? Another prompt. Fact or psh, you're either an introvert or an extrovert. It is that pure black and white dichotomy. You are correct. It is psh. And what I have learned over time, it's not a matter of being a pure introvert or a pure extrovert. What I think we are really trying to measure is something that I call the ambivert spectrum. The majority of us, I won't say all, but the majority of us are ambiverts. There are some situations where we thrive in those social interactions, whether we are extroverts or introverts. I can tell you right now, for a public speaking event like this, I tend to thrive now. I lose my energy a lot slower than if you just throw me in a networking event with nothing to do but just talk to people, and I have to not just give a speech, but I have to listen to people and think about a response, and I have to find a way to keep all of that interesting, and that just terrifies me and makes me lose energy extremely quickly. Who can relate to that? Now, I don't think that there are too many pure introverts or pure extroverts. So questions to help you specify. When and where do you feel understimulated, or when and where do you feel overstimulated? I personally don't think that there are too many people who are just so wired that they'll call you up at 2 a.m. in the morning ready to party, and oh no, who needs sleep? It's time to party, party, party. I don't think that there are too many people like that. And on the other end, I don't think that there are too many people who are just pure introverts, where they wake up in the morning, they go downstairs, they say hi to their neighbors, and oh my goodness, they're exhausted and have to take a nap. I don't think that those two extremes exist. We are all somewhere on the ambiverted spectrum. However, fact or society pushes us to be more extroverted. Oh, somebody said, psh. Okay. Personally, from my experience, I do say that this is fact. And it's evidence in the workplace from things like this. The open office, the more community sitting thing that Google introduced. Curse you, Google. Sorry. Sorry for anyone who works at Google, but this was put into my workplace, and I was terrified. You're taking away my safe little cubicle. I no longer have that space, and now you're forcing me to interact throughout the entire day. I found myself getting up from my seat time and time again just to take a walk, just so I could try to recuperate some of the energy that I was losing in the constant engagement at work. And a lot of times, I think the pandemic helped it a little bit, but a lot of people tend to think that if you're not interacting with everyone, if you're not joining the team, every single team assignment, if you choose to take your work by yourself and do it by yourself, then you're weird. You're not being a good corporate citizen. You're not being a good teammate. These are things that I have been told, and these are things that a lot of other people have been told. And what happens is, again, it's that misunderstanding of what is an introvert and what is an extrovert, and what can help some people and what keeps people from thriving in certain social interactions. So what can introverts do in this extroverted world? The key that I found is expertise. Regardless of what your expertise is, if you have something where you can consider yourself a subject matter expert, you have the key to thriving in this extroverted world, regardless if you are an introvert or an extrovert. And the key of your expertise can open a couple of doors for you. One door is the door of public speaking. And I am a poster child of this one. Because when I'm giving a speech, this is where, again, I can provide you all my expertise and you can all take it in. And some useful introverted traits for public speaking. I enjoy solitude, can concentrate easily, can do my best work on my own, often prefer to express myself in writing. All of these helped me when I was drafting my speeches for the International Speech Contest. They help me when I'm creating a presentation for work. Then, I tend to think before I speak. I dislike small talk and prefer to go into more in-depth topics. Well, this is useful for me because public speaking is something that I really care about. This is where I can go in depth. I can talk to you for hours about public speaking and public speaking tips and tricks. And then I prefer one-on-one conversations to group activities, and I feel drained after being out and about, even if I've enjoyed myself. Now, these ones, you may think they're a little weird. How is it that this is a trait that's useful for public speaking? Well, this is where I start to understand that being an introvert is truly an asset when it comes to public speaking. Because with introverts, we lose energy with social interaction. The more social interaction we have, the faster we typically lose our energy. However, when I'm up on this stage providing you my expertise, am I speaking to each individual person? I'm speaking to this whole audience as one. So, my energy is maintained a little bit more efficiently. Now, the second door is networking. And again, expertise comes in good use here because in this interaction, for instance, I don't have to worry about me engaging the conversation or initiating the conversation, I should say. No, most of you are going to come to me because of my expertise. And because I have that expertise, I'm going to feel good about that social interaction. And I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to give you something valuable. And for me, networking is always about giving value and then receiving value back. Just a really quick story on networking and how this helped me, especially when it comes to my expertise. It was 2013, and I was looking for a new job. I was working at JP Morgan for a few years, and I felt stuck. So I'm sitting in the lunchroom trying to ponder what I'm going to do with my life. And then in my left ear, I just keep hearing this annoying clapping. And the clapping happened every 5 to 7 minutes. I know this clapping. This is a Toastmasters club. Of course, there was a meeting, a demo meeting that was being held for a new club that was being established at JP Morgan. I sat in and I participated, and I ended up telling people that I had been a Toastmaster for years at that time. I had started competing in contests, and all of a sudden, that expertise was valuable. And it just so happened that the people who had organized that demo meeting, they were project managers, and I was interested in project management. So I provided some value to them with my expertise. They provided me value in giving me a job opportunity, which I got the interview. I knocked the interview out of the park, and I became a project manager, which I am still as to this day. Oh, thank you. So some of the introverted traits that work well for networking. Conflict usually would not bode well for networking, so I think that's pretty good of a trait there. Then, don't enjoy multitasking. Often let calls go to voicemail. People tell me that I'm a good listener. Isn't it good when you're talking to somebody and they're not distracted and they're focused on you and what you're saying? One of the rudest things that I think can happen is if you're talking to somebody and they take out their phone and start, oh, I'm sorry, give me 1 second. To me, if it's important, yes, that is fine, but if it keeps happening over and over again, you probably have a little bit of a problem. But I dislike small talk, enjoy talking in depth. That's great for networking and establishing good, strong relationships. You're not just a person that just goes to every single person trying to hit everyone in the room. I guess that could be valuable for me as an introvert. I feel that I like to stick to a few people and go in depth. I go for quality rather than the quantity. And seem to care about wealth and fame. Again, I'm going to skip this one because right now I think I do like a little bit of that wealth and fame. But and then feel drained after being out, even if I've enjoyed myself, and prefer one-on-one conversations. So again, this is all about being strategic when it comes to networking. I don't have to hit every single person in the room. I can concentrate on a few and be strategic about who those people are. And then once I've hit that goal, I don't have to be at the networking event anymore. I can go about my day. I showed my face. I interacted with people, but I also was able to provide some value and maybe get some value back. Now, as we close up, there are some responsibilities that I think people should learn about. Now, when it comes to the leader's responsibility, when it comes to introverts and extroverts, create an environment as a leader that supports multiple ways of engagement. So you may have some extroverts, and sometimes you can tailor to them. However, keep in mind that there may be some introverted people. So learn who they are, learn how they thrive in certain situations, and tailor your engagements to both, not just one. Oh, wrong way. Gamify participation when you can. Gamification is a great way to get both introverts and extroverts involved. Gamification helps the introvert because you don't force them to have to get into an awkward situation and try to initiate by themselves. They have something that they can basically hide behind in terms of a game or in terms of some rules that you establish to engage with other people. And then delegate facilitation roles. And this, extroverts can gravitate toward the facilitation role. Sometimes they seem natural at it, but allow the introverts to show what they can do, especially when it comes to their expertise. And then encourage understanding of both those extroverted and introverted needs. Now, extroverts, I'm giving you some responsibilities as well. Extroverts, please be patient and establish trust. A lot of times when an introvert is quiet and the extrovert is talking, what does the extrovert typically think when the introvert is quiet? They're not interested. They think that something's wrong. But no, just be patient, establish trust. As you establish more trust, they may open up a little bit more. However, in order to establish that trust, you need to do something else. Don't dominate the conversation. Facilitate the conversation. So one way that you can do this is, okay, you tell a story about A, B, or C. Ask that question. What about you? How do you feel? What do you feel about that story? Do you have a similar story? So you're not just dominating the conversation because this person isn't talking, so you just feel like you have to fill in all of that silence with the words from your mouth. All that to say, listen. And in order to listen, you have to shut up. I'll be blunt. Now, the introvert responsibility. Use your introverted tendencies to your advantage. We went through those traits. You can use those traits to your advantage to thrive in various situations. Utilize your expertise for public speaking and networking, which we've established, and stop using introversion as an excuse to not speak up. Being an introvert does not mean you can't talk. Being an introvert does not mean you are not qualified to talk. And I had to follow my own advice to stop using introversion as an excuse to not speak up. So I did that, and I reached out to Susan Cain. Now, fact or psh, Susan Cain responded to me. Fact. And in fact, I told her about the 2019 win. I told her how she had inspired me, and she posted this post on her LinkedIn page. She did that on my birthday. But what made this most interesting to me is that even though this picture was the 2019 World Championship win, the link that she provided everyone was the speech that started it all back in 2016. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you leave with nothing else, I just want you to know that being an introvert is a superpower too. And that, my friends, is 100% fact. Thank you so much.